So we have various attacks and we have monsters, so that means now we can actually work on combat. So this is right where we left off. I moved the blobs around a bit. It's arbitrary, it's nothing you have to duplicate. Um, and what we're going to do is we're going to have to start modifying some of the objects that we created. So let's start with the bullet. With that, I'm sorry, that's the image. We want the prefab. So for that, we did put a rigid body so there'd be um, the ability to add velocity, and we added a circle collider. So what we want to do is we want to make this a trigger, because if it's not a trigger, then two objects with rigid bodies will impact and then like bounce off each other, like two cars hitting each other. We don't want that. We actually want an overlap. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the bullet control, which I think is already open. And we're now going to look for a collision. So that's its own section. So pretty straightforward. This is saying when a collision, the object has entered into a collider zone, then perform the following tasks. There's a couple ones that you can do. There's enter, there's exit, there's stay, so it depends what you're looking to do. So we're going to do destroy, other, and destroy game object. There we go. It's a little bit messy because they move quickly, but it's that easy. So building on what we already had, all we had to do was enter this in order to get the destruction. Now, this isn't what we're going to permanently keep, because more than likely you want the enemy to have hit points and will take various amount of attacks to destroy it, but that at least shows you the syntax for destroying the object. So let's give the enemies hit points. So I believe enemy control is open. Now this is a case where you absolutely do not want a static variable. You want just a local variable. So public, let's call it int, and it will be enemy HP. So what's going to happen is, say right now there's 3 enemies on the screen, okay? This script is going to be attached to all 3 enemies, but each enemy will have its own enemy HP variable. So even though I only wrote this variable once, it will actually be 3 separate enemy HP variables. So, and that's the way you'd want it, because you want every enemy to have its own HP. So unless you're working on an example where you have like a hive amount of monsters and they share HP, that'd be one thing. But other than that, you want them to have their own, and you just do that by not having it be static. And what you can do on this side is let's take the hero control, actually bullet control. Not gonna use all that yet. What we're going to do let's get rid of these because we don't want them to be destroyed. What we're going to do is we're going to check so if the name of the object that's colliding with it is equal to bullet, and because it's instantiated, it's going to be clone. Then enemy HP minus equals, let's do 20, so it has to be hit 5 times. And now we just check, can't check here though, check it in update. If enemy HP, we'll actually say less than 1, just in case for some reason it hits negatives. It should not though. Then destroy. Now in this case, to destroy the monster, you're not saying other, you're saying game object, because in this case the script is attached to the monster as opposed to being attached to the bullet. So let's go here and we're gonna remark that out, but we'll save it just in case. We might use a the burst attack, maybe an instant kill all. Okay. Alright, so that one get destroyed, that one got destroyed, that one got destroyed. So even though it's not displaying the hit points on the screen, clearly you can see that it did take a few hits to get destroyed. And just to make life a little bit easier on us, let's change their velocity so they don't move as fast as us, so we can navigate. And that kind of thing is actually a balance issue, but for right now, for testing, we need to slow them down. So it would be a balance issue depending on what you want this to be in the final game. That's better. There we go. And now it effectively has hit points. So depending on how much information you want to provide to the player, you could put a life bar above each enemy. I think I'm going to save that for the end of the video for the optional bells and whistles, because functionality, it's working. The functionality is working. So let's leave it as that for now. So let's work on the melee attack now that the bullet is working. With the scythe, it already gets destroyed, so we don't have to add another destroy command. And so really all we need to do then is we need to build on enemy control. So basically we just need to build on this, because we already have this statement that checks for the name of what's colliding with it. So we would change this to, let's check the name, so it's scythe slash. So scythe slash, and we'd minus out 50. I think this should be fine because enter 2D is just the frame in which it enters. So even if it's staying, it shouldn't keep doing damage. It should only do damage when it first enters for that one frame. So I believe it shouldn't kill instantly. It should just be, it should take multiple hits. Okay, so a couple things. Interestingly, accidentally, there's a knockback, which is a nice effect, but we really weren't looking to do that. So what we have to do is like we did with the bullet, we have to make the scythe slash a trigger. I think it wasn't doing damage because it wasn't overlapping, it was just pushing it back. So I believe that one change should make it work. And actually, let's make one more change before we run this. Because what we're going to do is the scythe attack, when it gets instantiated, so right here, it's always being instantiated relative to current center. So it's not looking at which direction she's facing. But that's an easy fix. So what we have to do is we just come in here, and once again using that variable that checks which direction we're facing in, we don't have to do 0 because by default it's correct for 0. Just save that. Let's point down. Perfect. Let's run to the right. Excellent. So we probably should have taken care of that when we first did the attack, but obviously it was a very easy fix, so no harm, no foul. 1, 2 attacks. 1 attacks. Now, one visual problem with this, though, is you're not seeing any kind of slash. Since it's a single frame, you're really not getting a sense of what the range is on the weapon, and obviously at times it's going to look like you're not hitting when you really are. So we can work on that.